Yes, now, and welcome back to episode 150 of the Top Loaded Podcast. And before I introduce our very special guest for our very special episode, a massive thanks for the guys over at Third Down UK for powering up this episode of the Top Loaded Podcast. Whether you need card supplies, custom card stands, great preparation kits, they have you covered. And if you use TTP10 at checkout, you get 10% off all your needs. And now introducing our number one friend from over in the States, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. TrikeCards. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great, man. I'm excited. As I say, every time I come on, like this is one of my. I'll be honest. I've done a couple podcasts, a couple streams lately. I mean, I'm ungrateful, but sometimes I'm like, oh man, I got to run home and do the podcast. I've been looking forward to this all day, so I'm over the moon, man.
Well, you're making me blush over it. I don't know how you've done that. It's normally me doing that the other way around. I don't like it when it's thrown around, but I think there's only one place to start. And obviously, since the last time we spoke, your content has been leveling up, in my opinion. It's been absolutely fantastic. And is that, I remember we spoke, we said, you were saying, I'm really going to put like a lot more time and focusing onto the content. I've got to admit, it clearly shows because they have been to that next level, in my personal opinion.
Thank you. Yeah. It's been that's where my focus has been, and it's all effort. I mean, I don't know if I'm giving out. I try to save the free game, as we call it in the US, towards the end of the episode, so we'll have to really make it through and wait. But I would say with content and YouTube, for the most part, you kind of get what you put in. And there's no, I think that's one of the biggest, especially as people get bigger. That's one of the not that I'm big at all, you know, I'm still growing, and in the grand scheme of things of YouTube, I'm tiny, but to make good content, you have to put the effort in, and more, not even just the effort, because you know what it is? It's not that, because everyone puts effort in, right? But I think taking a step back and being strategic and planning it has been the biggest thing, and that's helped me a lot. And with the stuff doing well lately, is really properly planning it and putting a lot of time behind it, and that's helped a lot. And I think it just leads to more enjoyable videos, and that the views and the other stuff that hopefully comes along with it.
Yeah, I think I just piggybacking on the end of that one. I think that's the word enjoyment. I think is something that people don't realize is how much you enjoy a video, whatever it may be, whether it's YouTube, streaming, when the person is enjoying what they're doing, you can see it, you can notice it. And like you said there, it goes that bit extra. The videos go up that little bit better. Everything seems more enjoyable when someone's kind of just walking around, and you kind of can tell it's a bit painful for them. They're a bit like, I'm struggling what to do. But now you've found that enjoyment. Is there a certain thing in particular that you was like, I really enjoy doing this aspect of it? Or is it the actual just overall having these different ideas just keeps it fresh as well? And every video can be different. And I think that's one thing that people. Well, that's never happened before.
That's good.
That's never 150 episodes. That's never happened. That's quite.
Wow. All right.
What the? What? I'm quite surprised. I was looking. I was like, and it stopped. I was like, what?
Quick recovery, though. Quick recovery.
Well, well, it's a special episode, so something special had to happen, I guess.
Yeah.
We're obviously just piggyback on what we're saying about the excitement thing and the different content ideas with the whole different range of content you're bringing now. I think you can really tell that every video has got that bit of planning in it, and when it comes to fruition, and then you put out that final product, I think you can really tell now as well that you are really enjoying it, but also you're taking that time as well to be like, this is the idea of the video, and a lot of them come out so well.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. And you're killing it, man. You hit the nail on the head. That excitement is so important. And I think I thought about that more and more. It's like, you know, now I'm getting into myself, like if the channel goes bad or the views or people, you got to enjoy it. And that'll never change for me. If I'm making a video, well, that's the thing. I can't do it. If I'm not excited about it, I can't do it. So constantly keeping it fresh, I think also helps the viewer as well. But yeah, it's just like even now, it's like what is exciting me, what's new, what's different. And you have to do that a little bit. For me, just I don't know. I'm sounding like when sometimes you hear like not that I'm an artist or anything, but sometimes you hear like someone who's in entertainment talk and they seems like they're taking themselves so seriously. So I'm trying really hard not to do that. But I just kind of I wasn't personally enjoying making the same card show vlog. I've done a lot of card show vlogs.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. I think it's fair for me to say I wasn't enjoying it as much just because I've probably made like 60, 75 something. You know what I mean? So I wanted to do something different and just make it fun, and every time just make it a little better. So I don't know. I'm talking in circles, but yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it on every video I make. I just want to make it fun, and that comes through. No matter if you're okay, there you go. Someone will be able to take something from this. If you're a content creator or whatever content you make, have fun with that, and that'll come through, and it'll translate to the audience.
I was going to say, I think that's the main thing when people do enter the content creation world within the hobby, because obviously the best what people find it easiest to, not even easiest to recall, but the easiest to find content at shows. And it's really finding that balance between not just relying on the card show content, because obviously people, especially within the UK, they can't go card shows every week, or even like yourself, how expensive would be to fly around the States, all these different card shows it does tally up. So finding that what content you can do, whether it's at home or if it's at a local store or wherever it may be, is so key, I think, to everything. But also, like, people forget like the grading process or buying people out. There's so many different avenues to explore, like what you've been doing, that it's one of them that it's finding them, but you can start doing them more than once. But because there's that so many new ideas what you're doing, you can kind of, and then when you do a card show one, it feels like a bit of a special episode, no doubt. Now you go, oh, actually, I haven't done one of these for a while.
Exactly. And that's switching it up. And I don't know. I don't want to dwell too much on content creator talk, because I know not everyone is a content creator, but that you're killing a nail on the head again. If you gave me two options on a video, and it's like one of them is like, believe it or not, I spent $100,000 at this card show, or here's how I organize my cards. Guess what video is actually going to do better right now? Here's how I organize my cards. And you don't, and I think a lot of people, they do get scared, especially in cards, right? Because cards is such like a flexing thing. It's like, oh, I'll never be as big as these guys. I don't have 100,000. I will probably never. I mean, me personally, I don't see a scenario where I ever have $100,000 to spend March. And they're like, oh, I can't do it because I don't have that money. And I love how now, and really what's translating is just stories and people personal journeys. That's what people enjoy. So even over there, you guys don't have as many card shows, but it's about telling stories and looking at things from a different angle. So you don't need a fancy camera, you don't need sponsors, you don't need a ton of money. Just kind of look at things from a different angle, tell your story, and it's funny, dude. Your content will do way better than any flexing type of content will.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think how have we seen it a lot is making content relatable to your audience. And that's what I think the UK and US as well are doing very well. Everyone is at a different level within hobby. Not everyone can spend $1,000 on a card. Some people can only spend £10 on cards. So when you see someone go to a card show and they're finding something they have been looking for ages, and then they find it for a £5 or $5, whatever it may be, that's the same satisfaction of someone, I don't know, going out and buying a flawless Steph Curry. And that's the one thing I really like. And obviously moving on a bit from content, I've got to say as well, obviously we talk about shows, and there's a certain place you have visited recently, which I've been very excited to talk to you about, a place that I've always wanted to go to, Seattle. So how was Seattle?
Yeah, that's a good transition. Seattle was incredible, and as always, the people on Top Loaded Podcast get the inside scoop. It was up there to buy my biggest collection ever. It was just incredible, man. I mean, not a ton of soccer in there. There was a couple of Obsidian white Polestar packs in there or something. I think that got from like the Panini Rewards or whatever. So there's a couple of higher, but man, I mean, if you guys know American sports at all, it was just you know, like all the top, like Paul Skeens. I don't know if you're familiar with him. And I mean, Otani, I'm sure you like it just Jalen. Oh my God. How am I? Jalen Daniels? Yeah, Jalen. Well, how am I
Jaden.
blanking on the Commanders? Jaden Daniels. Oh my God, that's terrible. I'm about to get canceled as a content creator. Jaden Daniels. Basically, the guy had bought into like just a ton of breaks and just incredible stuff in there. And it was an interesting. I don't want to give away too much because I think you're really going to enjoy this video.
Yeah.
This was a lot of planning. I don't want to jinx it too much, but it's going to be a great video. But that's the other thing. Yes, skipping over a little bit from talk card stuff that people maybe care more about. This is another leveling up. Calling it what it is. You know, this is the most I've ever spent on a collection, and it's a little bit of a risk. And I showed up, and I told him, I said, I'll be quite honest. I don't even know how to send this much money or all kind of stuff. It was kind of nice in the video. I don't know if you've ever seen Chasing Cardboard on YouTube.
Yeah.
I called up Ty, who does a big, like, hey man, I need some advice. I don't know what I'm doing. So it was a big new thing for me, and it was awesome, man. And so much work though. I mean, we drove back from me and my girlfriend Lily, who you've met as well, the Percy Pig Queen. We drove back from Seattle like 12 and a half hours, and it was a whole thing, but it was just so fun, man. It's an adventure, and it was brand new. It was just awesome, and hopefully down the road I'll see the rewards of the effort and the risk I took there.
I was going to say it's not as well. I think what people forget as well when making content, not even content, but the hobby itself, that the road trip you're saying about, the memories that you do end up having with the hobby, they're not even intentional. You've gone to buy a collection out, make it a massive thing, but then you do the road trip back. The memories that you take with the hobby, it's like we've had it before at card shows when you've come over to the UK and going around London. But it's funny how you end up, you started collecting a piece of cardboard and you're like, oh, this is good fun. But you end up, so many of your like great memories in recent time end up being because of cards as well. So like having these videos, is it going to be one of them to look back on as well, that you might be able to look back on in a couple of years' time, or you might have even done it for some of your older content and you go, oh, I actually really remember that happening, or that you can see like progression literally play out in front of your eyes.
Oh, 100%. And that's a good point. I was actually, speaking of Chasing Cardboard again, there was a guy who they bought a collection from who got into the hobby heavy during COVID. You know, he'd entered breaks, normal stories, and you know, Ty was kind of telling him like, hey man, I think I forget what the number was. It was like he spent 10K. It might have been less, like 5K on breaks. It's like, hey man, I'm sorry to tell you, there's only like $500 here or whatever it is, right? And then he was like, the guy was like, he's like, oh, aren't you like really sad about it? And he goes, yeah, of course. Like it hurts to have lost money here, but he's like, I don't know how I would have gotten through a COVID without cards kind of keeping me entertained. He's like, if I had to do it again, I would do it again. And I thought that was very interesting. And obviously everyone's financial situation is different. Maybe some people can afford to burn a little more money than others, but man, like the stuff me and you experience going around London and the moments and everything, like, dude, that is priceless. And that's what the hobby's about. And just the community. Like, I think we take it for granted, man, especially in these, like all these countries now. I'm getting really deep. I'm putting my Joe Rogan hat on, but like all these countries now are even starting ministers of loneliness, because it's so hard for people to find community now in this time. So we're just so lucky, and there's nothing like it. And yeah, I'm just so thankful. In that memory with her and having it all recorded, that's fun, man. I recommend everyone, even just pictures. Whenever I look back at a picture, like we took the picture outside Sandown, like someone had let's do it real quick. Like I'm always so happy that we did that.
I was going to say, it's so easy to be caught in a moment that, like you say, even a picture, a little video, or whatever it may be, it's so important to capture. But it's also, as well, I was having this discussion with one of my good friends the other day of when you actually remember as well, sometimes where you picked the card up, the story behind it, and having some of them on footage as well. That moment where you actually get the card, you unpackage it, you've been waiting in the post for it. It's hard to explain to people who are not in the hobby, unpackaging an envelope and seeing this one card, and you're like, oh, I can't believe this. This is incredible. You want to show all your mates the card, but then someone outside the hobby be like, I don't get it. And then you try and explain it to them. And I feel that's another thing with the community, like you say, like with the Discords and everything now, it's so important that end up talking to more people within the hobby than you do without it.
Hmm.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's just, I never would have thought I'd feel like I said it before. I'll say it again. I feel like I almost have this friend group over there in the UK that like I'm missing out on when I'm not over there. And I don't know any other hobby where that happens.
Yeah.
So thankful and hopeful for more shows, man. I'm looking forward to more stuff coming up.
Yeah, I was going to say, and obviously moving on from shows, obviously to everyone's favourite thing, which is grading. Obviously, we know that
Ooh.
you've it's a challenging one. I've had a few returns recently, which is about time for
Mhm.
me. But obviously, I remember when we had our first conversation on this podcast. It must be now about 2 years ago, and at the time, with PSA's turnaround, we was looking at like 6 to 8 months on a very good return. Now you're
Mhm.
paying $25 and you can get it back within 3 weeks.
Yep.
It's come a long way since the
It
days where
has.
we first spoke about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's I listened to your last podcast today. Actually, as soon as it came out, I watched it. So I know you touched on grading a little bit. It's incredible. It's changed a lot.
Mm.
I know in Europe they're opening up a German PSA
Yeah,
headquarters. Not, I don't think they're grading there, but
yeah,
they're really
submission center.
building the
Yeah.
yeah into Europe, which is huge and it's awesome to see. But I have a little bit of a hot take though. I will say I think I don't want to say grading has become overrated,
Mm.
but especially in the soccer world, oh my gosh, be very selective with what you're grading right now, guys. Oh
Yeah.
my lord. I mean, the amount of cards that it makes sense to grade. Whew. And I've been a little cautious about saying this because obviously I have my affiliate code Trike25 if anyone wants $25 off your first PS grade. But I guess it's okay. I'm taking a middle. It's tough,
Mhm.
man, because
Yeah.
it's just I've said it before. I've said it again. Why grading did so well during the pandemic
Mm.
was because grading is kind of it's for cards that are quote unquote in this vehicle, right? That for the most part, right? There's some people like you got your wonderful one-on-ones protected and all this stuff. Like that's normal, but the majority of people, at the very least, who are paying a premium for a
Yeah.
graded card are doing so because they think it'll go up more in the future or whatever it is. And it's tough now because even if you have, I think I might have given this example before, but like if you have this is a terrible, I don't know why he's coming in. Okay, here's a better one. A Danny Olmo red or something like that. Like the person who's buying that, in my experience, just does not care that it's a PSA 10. They just want the card, even though it's a red out of 5 and an expensive card, right? They're not. Why am I really paying it? I just want the card. And with the rookies to an extent, because there's just so much out there. People like I'll give you an example. Here's one I just graded. Like this Barcola, who's a really good player, by the way. Merlin Auto, PSA 10. This stuff has not been moving for me in a
Mm.
PSA 10. I just haven't seen people be that interested in it. There's some of the stuff, and it's lucky. I prepared for this. I have this right next to me, like a Holland Sapphire PSA. That'll sell because there's some people are starting to do soccer repacks, and
Yeah.
there's use like Holland, Ronaldo, Messi always, but this other stuff, man, it's very, very tough right now. It's very, very tough right now.
Yeah, as I say, well, I think for people to compare it to, it was very similar. I'd say when we was coming first out of the pandemic, and there was the absolute influx of slabs.
Yep.
But now people are so particular at what they buy. But the soccer market is so different, and we've said this for plenty of years on the podcast now. Of 95% of people who collect soccer now are collectors. And for
Yep.
me,
Exactly.
if a card comes up and it's in an 8, I'm going to buy it. If it comes up in the 10,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buy it. If it's raw, I'm going to buy it. It doesn't matter as much. Whereas you look into the NBA, MLB, NFL communities where a lot more of it is investing and flipping, like you come to
Yep.
earlier, that's when the premium comes in for them 10s, especially some of the short print rookie stuff this year, which have been hitting crazy prices. But like I say, realistically, you're only looking at Lamine Yamal for the soccer world. And even
Mm-hmm.
then, some of the Lamine Yamal stuff doesn't really sell. If it goes into a 9, I've seen some of these rookies in 9s go for about $20, which is the price of grading. It's
Yeah.
such a fair thing of it has to be, like you say, a certain card, whether it's someone's for their PC or that top echelon of these are the few, probably what, 0.5% of overall cards because there's so many cards out there.
Yeah, yeah, and part of it is it's good and bad, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm a little, well, there's two stories that come to mind. First of all, you speak about coming out of the pandemic. I remember the first time, it was one of the first London card shows. Afterwards, we set up, and it was me and a couple buddies, and anything that was slabbed, it was just, we had slabs that were just kind of like random. Like it was like Prism, I think it was like Prism 2014 SGC 9s. And then it was so new and kind of hard to find over there that people were walking around and were like, oh, 25 pounds for a 9. Okay, sure, we'll take it. And we're like, oh my God, because their graded cards were hard to find over there. And it wasn't me, it was a buddy who sold through a couple of these. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna be rich if I can keep selling these at 25 pounds. Like these are just kind of my discard stuff. But it was, people were so excited, graded cards. I remember seeing the post, oh my God, my first graded card. What, not even too long ago, was kind of a thing over there. And that's changed massively. I forget my other thought that I was going. Oh, the second thing was, now that grading is more accessible and it's good. That's a good, but it also, people are just willing to take the risk on the 10, right, rather than buy the 9. Like, when I first went over there, it was so non-accessible that I made a ton of money buying everyone's raw cards and just grading them because no one was doing them. I got so many 10s. But now if I come over there with a 9, people are like, hey, well, if it was raw, maybe I'd take it because then I have a chance at a 10. Like 9s are going below raw in a lot of cases, and that's just a killer. I actually did another sneak preview of a video. I just did a PSA return where I broke down all the finances, and it was really tough, especially with and sorry, I'm ranting. This is a really ranty episode for me, but
I love it.
There's more PSA 8s now. There is, just calling it what it is. And I would buy cards for like 30. Yeah, I know. It's tough. But I bought some cards for $35, right? Yeah. I'm graded PSA 8, selling for $20. You're into it grading. And that wasn't like an outlier. If you buy a $35 card and it's an 8, you're probably going to get about $20 for it. So right there, you lost $35 because you're grading feedback basically, maybe after fees, $35, 100% loss is it's tough. So that's the thing. The landscape has changed for sure. And that's not to say, trust me, you'll still see me doing plenty of grading and use that affiliate code once again. But seriously, it's got to be particular now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's perfect as well. It's actually a question I was going to ask you, because one thing I do love about when you do like your buying videos, your grading videos, is actually how you break it down. Because a lot of people try and I wouldn't say hide their costs, but they're not as open of, all right, this is actually how much I'm in for this. That a lot of people go, oh, I might not include the grading fee or all of the price, but it's so important when we're teaching people or helping people when they first come into it, or even it took me 2 years to do a PSA submission, that there's a lot more to it than just sending the card off. You've got that price of the postage when you break it all down. That it's so important to educate people as well. And I think that's a thing you do fantastically in your PSA videos, is just being open to people. Actually, you are not going to win every time. PSA and grading, whether it's SGC, wherever it may be, is not a guaranteed win anymore. Like you say, 8s are becoming a lot more prominent. Sadly, 7s I've been seeing quite a bit more as well. That it's not the worst thing in the grand scheme of things. If it was a new company setting up with these grades, there's so many 10s out there already that it's going to be affecting these new harsher grading, it seems, on certain cards.
Yeah. And also, I mean, not turning this into the money podcast, but also people always forget turning things quickly. Especially, I know some people have done really well at the London Card Show and whatnot. And what's it called? Is just 2 into 4 and then 4 into 8. But if you can do that in 1 day or 1 week, as opposed to waiting for your PSA return to come back, and it's going to go down now. I know it's gotten quicker, but it's going to be slower with what's going on now with the wildfires and everything. So that's I don't know, but it's just something to consider, and that's fun. There's a bunch of different ways to look at it, but I don't know. I don't want to sound too harsh because obviously I'm still PSA is the company I'm going with 100%, and there's a lot of margin to be made there. But it's just funny. The landscape's always changing, right? That's the thing. People like, oh, the influencers who recommended Prism base back in the day. if you bought Soccer Prism base at the right time, you killed it. Or if you were grading Jadon Sancho or any of the, you killed it. So things are always changing. There's no right way to do it. And if you are in this too, I mean, I think everyone to an extent, even if you're just purely PC, like you want to make a little bit of money to build your PC up, you got to adapt and look at the landscape and see how things are changing.
Yeah, I was going to say, for people who are new to the hobby, they would forget the days where Bukayo Saka first Prism, not even rookie, was going for $35, $40. And you're like, how's that changed? But that's a landscape that is still very intriguing. But obviously, going back to you and obviously your content and your plans, obviously, we've seen the uptake in it. Like, obviously, without giving away future videos or anything like that, but what is like the plans for you? Obviously, because 2025 is going to be a massive year for you. Obviously, we'll be looking forward to certain videos that do always come up, but have you got any other ideas that you'd like to even achieve? Or there might even be an outlandish idea that you could think, mate, I would like to do that one day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to just what we said. I mean, there's one I'll give one that I'm really excited about is it's, well, the title here, I'll pitch it to you guys. The title is I quit my professional basketball career and this happened, ... And half the thumbnail, see, this is the planning. This is, you guys are getting the inside course here. This is what goes into it. Half the thumbnail is me in like my basketball jersey. And then the other half is like me at a 9 to 5, like at a desk, like kind of miserable. You know what I mean? And it's all about playing in a charity all-star game at the OTE Arena in Atlanta as part of the Culture Collision card show, if anyone's heard of that. But it's all about my training and just kind of my journey from, and it ties into cards as well, leaving basketball and now cards is my full-time job. And like just that different type of, it's like, oh, really training for something properly makes me really excited. So just different things like that. It's always going to be, you know, cards, but just, and that's still a card video, but just mixing in things that are a bit alternative. And then ideally I want to start doing more stuff with professional athletes and getting them more involved in the hobby. I think that's huge. I mean, for the UK people having the opportunity, obviously Tosin's killing it, man. It's the hobby gives you power. I mean, what can I say? You get into the hobby, things start coming up roses. And then the Luton Town player, Jacob Browning, am I saying it?
Brown,
yeah, Jacob Brown, like connecting with those guys, like it's and Solanke, were you there that day when they're man, incredible. I would love to just be in that position. So I think more of that and just breaking it, like I don't know. I just get excited. I'm just excited talking about it. You know what I mean? Like I would just love, I think we can even do a better job of breaking into the mainstream of like, here's you know, Solanke or like Tosin hearing about his collecting, like just I would love to make videos that appeal to a widespread. Like if I could share Tosin's collecting and then someone in the mainstream sees it and that really unlocks something in them, that would make me so happy. I think that's it. It's like I really, more than anything, I want to bring people into the hobby, have them enjoy this and have people feel something. It's the ultimate thing. That's tough. And I promise I'm not going to, you know, turn too artistic over here, but I don't know. I guess you can hear it a little bit, like a bunch of ideas going. I want to, whatever excites me, I want to do it.
Oh, you can tell even when you're talking there, they're passionate for these ideas. But like you say, that bridging that gap as well between pro athletes who are on the cardboard that we're collecting. And it's still weird to me, like being very fortunate to meet Tosin on a few occasions. And despite when I watch him, I want him to lose. But when I'm talking to him in person, I get on really well with him. He's still there was a funny story for everyone that people would never have heard before. Obviously, when he was at Fulham, they recently just beat Arsenal. I was at the game. Next time I see him, he comes up to me and says, "Oh, did you enjoy the defeat?" I was like, "How is the Premier League footballer taking the mick out of me?" I was like, "Fair, I'll just take that. I can't say anything about it." But it's what other situation like you would be in where you can integrate with a Premier League footballer and just be talking about something that you have in common. Like I said, what another world where I would be on a call to you again, all the way on the other side of the world, quite literally. And it is incredible. And when we see the passion as well, like I say, breaking into that mainstream, it will take one of these athletes one day who just randomly, like LeBron could just put out a picture of one of his cards, or a Messi just goes and picks up one of his Topps cards, and you'll be like, hold on a second, that's just going to blow up. and the amount of
Mm.
eyes would bring onto the hobby is just going to be mental.
Yep. Yep. And I think that stuff's coming, man. I think it is. It's the mainstream and more people getting into it and everything. I don't know. That's really it's going to be interesting to see, man. But yeah, that's what I would really like to do, kind of link those two things together. Because wow, I stopped myself there. I was about to almost compare myself to Tosin for a second, which we are not even close to the same stratosphere in terms of his achievements and him professional athlete. But what I was going to say with that big disclaimer out there was, I remember cards when I was still playing basketball was so huge for me. And also another big disclaimer, I've never talked to him about this. I have no idea what his relationship with the hobby is in terms of this, but like it was a big escape for me and something to do to kind of occupy the time, and just a really nice hobby to have that was still in sports, but something just a little different. So I think it actually clicks really well with professional athletes. So I think we'll see more and more get into it.
Oh, 100%. Like I say, I'm a firm believer as well. There is quite a few high-profile sportsmen, sportswomen, whatever industry they're in, whatever sport, that do collect, are in the hobby, but keep it on the low. Use a
Yeah.
pseudonym as well that we'll never know that who they are. But there's probably a reason why some of these one-of-ones we can never find. It's because they've just got them at home themselves. That's probably the reason why. We know you. We know your game. So if any Arsenal women are out there who are for some reason watching this, can you stop buying your one-of-ones because I want them? Thank you very much. Just disclaimer.
There you go. Well, and I think I'm just going to interrupt you one more time. I think it'll be interesting too now with obviously the Pokemon is taken off, and I know that's I think it's pretty big over there, especially big over there. I should say. So I think we'll see some, because it'll be fun. I'm sure. I mean, I was into Pokemon. I was never like obsessed with it, but I can imagine a scenario where footballers, professional athletes are like, oh, Pokemon, okay, it's kind of cool to buy one or two cards. I'm not really sure I see myself being a Pokemon collector for the next 10 years or like continually buying or whatever. I mean, like, oh, soccer cards, footy cards are here. And then I think there'll be some crossover from that. So I'm interested to see that.
I was going to say, definitely now, especially with like the Fnatic store that's popped up in London, the ease of that will be fantastic for us, as well as we see it quite a lot on the RIP night, what Tops did do, Fanatics did do last year across whole of the United States, of different athletes going to their local card store. And wow, some of them were blockbuster names as well, let's put it that way. But like I say, it's so good that it brings that gap as well, that people that we see as like untouchable, like up there in the stratosphere, then you can meet them, and it's still quite surreal, no matter whoever it is. But I think even not even just athletes to card collectors, but people who put content out to a creator, even just people in the hobby, that sometimes you don't realize everyone's in it for the same reason, and that's a great thing. Is how everyone, no matter where you are just combined by the love of cards. And it sounds crazy to say, and probably people will call us crazy on the outside, but you wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, man. Just that love of sport. I don't know if you've seen it. It was like a Liverpool with Curtis Jones, and he goes into like the baking shop with that kid in there. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Oh man, I'll have to send it to you. I think it was like Gillette or Dove or some sort of commercial, but Curtis Jones goes in, and it was a younger guy with, I believe, like some sort of medical issue or something. But you can just I'm totally butchering this, but I think he's like the flag guy at Liverpool or something like that. But I'll have to send it to you. I'm not explaining to it well, but the long story short, when Curtis Jones came in, you could just see how much he loves Liverpool and how much sport just means to him, and the joy of him walking into Anfield and all that stuff. And I literally did tear up, man. Like that's just, I just love that, or, me growing up, like I was a big USC football fan, and then like me being a Matt Leinart card that I have back there, and then just all those memories and stuff come rushing back. Like that's just, dude, that I wouldn't trade that for the world. And that just what makes the hobby so impactful. And I want other people to feel that and to experience that as well. So whatever we can do here to keep content and spreading that, I'm looking forward to in 2025.
I was going to say, and obviously people do know about your PC. Obviously it's slightly different to some other people, which is so great. Obviously helps. You're one of the few people that actually played with someone that you can collect, which is still fantastic in my opinion. But how is your personal collection going? Obviously, with the YouTube doing a bit more, obviously time and effort goes on that, and you can forget about your personal collection at times. So, have you picked up any cards for it?
Yeah. Shout out friend of the podcast, El Toro, hooked me up with a very nice. He kept an eye out. John Collins 101 National Treasures. Little card hobby snipe picked it up for me. That was way too kind. I got it up there displayed. It's been good. I've been picking. If anything, it's too much, man. I think that's my problem more than anything. Is people watch the channel and they're like, oh, I have this card for you. I have this card for you, and I'm like, man. I only have so much money to spend on my PC, and they'll be like, dude, whatever, any price you want to pay. And I feel so bad because like I think they genuinely mean that. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to spend anymore. So that's been my biggest thing is like people are too kind with my PC now, and I'm overflowing. So but it's been good. It's been good. I really like that was a recent addition. That's something I would definitely recommend to everyone. Not necessarily specifically that, but having a way to like, I think, display your piece in some sort of manner, I think is great. Because before I just kind of had them in a box and then you're not really sure. You're like, oh, do I need this card? Now it's like organized. Okay, I have my Wake Forest row. I have another row. And then, I don't know. In my opinion, just for me personally, I think most people really, you don't need a gigantic PC. And having them properly displayed and being kind of limited has been great. Because now it's very focused. I'm like, these cards right here really bring me joy. These other ones that aren't really necessarily going to make it up on the wall, probably just sell them. And then, or even there's certain spots, it's like, it's fine. I'm like, oh, I have a goal like of my teammates. I've talked about it before, Cody and Dino, who I played with in college, who play in the Euro League. I have their gold. Well, Dino's going to one up there, and I have like Cody's gold. If one of Cody's 101s comes along, buy that, maybe take the gold down. I can sell that and just, I like having it visually from there. That's been a great way to organize and kind of prioritize my PC.
I was going to say, I think it's a very undervalued and underrated thing that people don't spend time on. It's actually showcasing some of the cards that you have. Like, it's you pay good money for some of these cards, or even some cards that can cost £2-3 that have a meaning to you. That it's great having them, but when I've had this issue, and that's why I've started displaying mine a lot more as well. That it's great sitting in your case or in a box, but no one's seeing it. You're not seeing it, so it's like if the cards, I've got two of my really nice cards out at the moment, and I'm like, oh, great, you do a bit of work and you look over to the side and you're like, oh, that's a really cool card, or put it to that side. But then you go, I'm not really seeing that card as much now. I should, and how my mindset's gone from, no, I'll just keep it in my case to, will another collector enjoy it more than what I am at the moment? Probably yes. So share that love. And that's the only reason I always think of, I picked up that card because someone else wanted to sell it. So you've got to kind of have that revolving door to one aspect of letting other people have some cards as well. Trust me, I want to sit on every single card in the world, but you've got to realize at the end of the day, that one card could make someone's collection. And like you say there, like you've got the gold at the moment, the one of one comes along, you'll be like, well, that's got to go up as well. But then you can't display every card. That is impossible. It's fully impossible unless you just buy a whole house just for your cards.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioning like the value of it. That's another thing that put it in perspective of me is like there's certain cards I was like, oh, this is worth $1,000, but I'm like, I actually would rather display this $2 card. I would rather have this one on display, believe it or not. And that's like, it's not. It just helps you write it down, and I think that's the great thing about it with the PC. Once again, I've kind of been on a soapbox a little bit this episode, but it's fun to do it like that too, where it's like, oh, this actually brings me more joy than the $1,000 card, and that's even better because you can get a little more money back in your pocket. Still have the same joy.
I was going to say that's definitely important to, like you say, you can free up funds for bringing in other assets into your PC, or even having like a unique card. Sometimes the unique cards are the cards that actually you realize, oh, you know what, I haven't seen one of them. I've got an old Arsenal ticket, which is now in a PSA slab, for example, which you wouldn't necessarily think would be a prize collection, but now you're like, wow, like that's so important. And then you're like, well, they're harder to store, so I've got to make more space. And like you say, and I think it ties perfectly with an idea that you said about video of what would do well. I spent $100,000, or this is how I display my cards. And everyone displays their cards at the end of the day. And it seems like a perfect full circle of, at the end of the day, people would actually watch it thinking, I don't know how to store my cards. Let's
Yep.
see how Troy does it, or let's see how GBW does it, or whoever it may be, because everyone will do it differently. But you can take ideas from each person, and just make it your own.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, some of my most viewed videos are about a freaking scanner, like a printer. You know what I mean? Like that stuff helps people, and it's funny because other people have kind of asked me like, "Oh, why are you being so transparent with this, and that?" I'm like, well, first of all, I'll say this: I'm not a saint, right? Like I got a couple of things up my sleeve, right? Like I think in the UK, I've heard of some really good ones where people are like, "Oh, I know this guy who lives in Belgium who I found on Facebook, and he has all these like Lukaku stickers, and I'm buying them from him and grading them, all that stuff." Like people find little edges, and I have stuff like that too, right? And it's like, to be honest, I'm gonna keep a lot of that to myself. If I do it with everyone, it's gonna be ruined for everyone.
Yeah,
But otherwise, just helping people like the laser printer, why not? Like help people with the hobby or the scanner. How, like you said, here's how I display, here's how I organize my cards, like just making it a better experience for everyone. Like everyone wins, that's just great. Cause there's a lot of things. That's the other funny perspective thing is like we get this far into the hobby and something as simple as shipping. Like that
yeah,
video did really well. You take it for granted. You're like, of course, you just do this, and that. People don't know, and we didn't know either when we
yeah,
entered. And that's really one of the big reasons I started my channel, is because I was like, I learned a lot of this stuff from word of mouth and mistakes and experience. And I was like, I really wish there had been this for me when I joined. So yeah, that's a great thing to do.
yeah. I was gonna say I echo that one. I think that's one of the main reasons why I started this podcast as well. It's express like sharing a message, but also helping people, whether it's they've been in it for 10 years or 10 minutes. Like I say, there's got to be platforms out there. You've got to help each other. And like I say, I've seen it before where you see someone for the first time, they ask you a question, then you end up getting really good friends with them. You help each other out down the line. It's such a
Mhm.
good community. And like we say, it's brought us to the positions where we're both fortunate to be in now as well. And obviously closing this episode up, it's obviously been another fantastic one. And I've got to say, obviously, all the way over from, but you did recently get involved in a break with the huddle, haven't you? About a certain card you might have pulled in that one as well. There's a nice little story behind that one, I think, as well, for the people who might not know.
That is, dude, I forgot about that. You actually, speaking of stories, bang, right there. Imagine I couldn't have pulled that in a break, could I? Musiala patch auto was at 5, I think, or out of 10.
Out of 10, 5 of 10.
Oh man, just a filthy patch. I mean, it's yeah, it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned that because I want to make a video out of that as well. That's a pretty crazy story. I think before that, people are gonna believe this. I don't think I'd ever entered into a break in my life before that.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. There's a couple quote unquote exceptions. Like me and Brian did like a mystery pack video. I don't really count that as a break. Um, I think that's the first one. I'm gonna break me personally. I think that's literally so. Anyways, the huddle, Dan and Tosin were doing a break and they were posting it, and I was like, oh, I would love support. I know they're sorry. I want to make sure they feel everything goes. So I was like, let me just buy a spot. And then I saw the Bayern spot. I was like, oh, that's pretty cheap. I think it was like 25 pounds or something. I was like, oh, go for it. And then they start ripping it. They only did like 2 boxes, right? There's only like 16 total cards, and out pops. I saw the Bayern. And it's funny too, not to rip on them too, but like, Tosin a little, obviously I think it was his first break, right? So he did it, and then you just kind of saw like a logo peek out, and he's like, "Oh wait, let me put them back." Like, most breakers are like. So there was like a 30-second period where I was like, "Wait, that was a Bayern logo. I swear that was a Bayern logo. Show me the card. Show me the card." And then it came out, and I was like, "Oh my god, Musiala patch auto!" Like, and that's actually a big card. I was surprised what it sells for because I know the soccer market has come down, but people love that card. So yeah, 25 pound into. It's been a while since I checked, but I believe it was almost around $1,000. That's a pretty big. So shout out the huddle, man. Get into some breaks. Yeah. Exactly. That's all you, man. Yeah. So that was a pretty incredible. And thank you for being. It was your address that brought me good luck. You were gracious enough to let me ship it to your house even before the break happened. So that's what did it.
But like I say, it's amazing how like these stories come across. Like it's just amazing. Like I say, all like a video of that would be unbelievable as well. Your first break with a professional footballer's first break. It's
Yep.
just like them stories are there to be captured. And like we say, that's something that people don't really capture, and no doubt it would do really well because people just love stories and they love a journey. And when there's meaning to a video as well, that's where they get behind it.
Man, that's Now my brain's turning a little bit. We might have to have you back on over to Tosin so we can do a little handoff. Maybe we can do a little Hollywood cinema and we can fake like I haven't seen it before or something. But yeah, it's just oh man, it's great. Yeah, now I'm hyped. Like there's a video there. I gotta make something happen. But I do ask you one question before we go as well. We want to the hobby wants you at some non-UK card shows this year. We got to find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, don't worry. I've been getting pressure from the UK side as well to be getting out. There's a couple shows I've got my eyes on. I'm going to try and make one happen, but it needs to be done. It does need to be done. Especially, it would be nice to get out to the States. I haven't been out there since pre-COVID. Seems ages ago. But I think it needs to be done. I do think it needs to be done. Whether maybe Germany this year and then a big US trip next year. But then I was thinking there's a certain little World Cup heading to America next summer. So that could be very intriguing to be traveling to the national just after the World Cup final takes part in the same country. That could be quite cool.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, just let me know, man. I've been pressuring you to come out here for a while. So we'll see. Like I'll have you like we'll get you involved with like a whatnot stream or something, and it's a tax write-off stuff. We can figure it out. We'll get you over here one way or another.
Yeah, I think right. And now, for everyone don't know, as soon as this ends, I will be looking up flights to a certain part of America. So it's going to be great fun. There's 8 hours difference, so I'm going to claim it's 4 o'clock somewhere. So I'm going to be doing some research. But like we say, Troy, obviously a massive thanks yet again for spending time on the podcast. We love you over in the UK, but most importantly, for anyone who might not have seen any of your videos or your like where to follow you, whereabouts should the people head over and follow you?
Yeah, TrikeCards on YouTube, Instagram, and eBay now. Just changed it today. So we got the brand all aligned now. Oh my God, that sounded so douchey. The brand. I hate it when people say that. Forget that just happened. But yeah, no, Trike Sports Cards on YouTube, Instagram, TrikeCards. Come check it out. We'll hopefully see you guys and always love to interact. And yeah, appreciate any support I can get.
But like I say, I obviously heavily recommend heading over to Troy's YouTube channel. It's fantastic. Catch up on the videos, but most importantly, a massive good look for 2025. No doubt we'll be in contact soon, and I'll probably have to now look up flights to America. Thank you very much for that. But obviously, a massive thanks for taking up your time and joining us again on the episode.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Hope to be back on soon.
And a massive thanks, obviously, to Troy. And obviously, next week, we're closing in on the London Card Show special. But a massive thanks for the guys over at Third Down UK for powering up this episode of the Top Loader podcast. Whether you need card suppliers, custom card stands, great preparation kits, they're your place. And use TTP10 at checkout for 10% off. But hope everyone out there is staying safe, doing well, buying, selling, trading, and all that good jazz. But most importantly, happy hobbying and good night.